Welcome to another edition of Truth Bombs and Heart Nudges. Today we have our special guest, Taylor Johnson, joining us this week. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi, I'm back.
Yeah, we had so much fun. We had to do this again. So this time around, we're really going to allow Taylor to share with us a truth bomb or a heart nudge that she wants to share. So, well, before we even do that, let's give them a little more background on who is Taylor. So, whatever you want to share about you with our listeners.
Absolutely. My name is Taylor and I love Jesus. And I am newly married. I would, I just built a home, as I mentioned in the last episode. My husband and I built a home together, and we reside in the awesome state of Texas now. And so it's been awesome. And aside from that, I am just on a journey, as most of you guys are as well. I'm on a journey with Jesus, walking with Jesus, and really working on just reinventing me in a sense, letting him reinvent me. And so my journey really started. I've always been big into personal development, into learning, and just growing as an individual. And, obviously started to grow an interest in my faith journey. And, God just provided so many miracles and blessings for me in my life. So I jumped into my later teenage years, early adulthood. I really jumped into a direct sales company and grew so much so quick. Like rose to, the top 2% of the company really, really quickly. And I just absorbed it all. I was a sponge. Like I had so much fun. I still have so much fun with the company. They're awesome. But, recently I felt a call in a different direction. And, it was kind of like a wrestle for a little while with God. I'm like, what? Like, I don't understand. And so that's kind of been my journey now is, we're going to talk about it some more in this episode, but that is me and what I'm working on. And I'm just super excited. I'm just, that's it. That's me right now.
Yep. So I'm just gonna share this too. So when I met Taylor, I was amazed because she's the same age as my daughter, but was like the top 2%. And I was like, whoa, that's amazing. So at such a young age to have such amazing blessings, but not only that, but that leadership that it takes to build a business and to be, in the top 2%. I can't say that I've ever been in the top 2%. So I can't, say, oh, yeah, I know how to do it. But yeah, so that's super impressive and it's amazing. And it also shows how God, when you connect with him, how he can take you from A to Z, where it would have taken you, 60 years to go from A to Z if you try to do it on your own steam. But just that power in him that can say, oh, well, I'm going to take you from A to Z right now.
Right.
So that's pretty amazing. So Taylor comes with a lot of marketing and sales skills and just love of other people, because you can't get to the 2% of a company, the top two, and not love people. So Taylor's heart for people is just amazing. I don't know if I said it to you before, but Taylor, you're amazing. Like, yeah, this amazing heart, large capacity to love other people. But maybe share a little bit of that struggle of, being the top 2%. And then, what was God saying to you at that moment that kind of made you go, wait a minute?
Yeah, that's good. So, it was actually showing up in my performance. And I was noticing that there is something like missing, really. Like, even though God was my business partner in a lot of ways, a lot of aspects, and like I had mentioned, I love the business. I love what the company stands for, and I love the women. And so really my performance just kind of degraded in a lot of ways, and just, I questioned a lot. My sense of clarity was around the vision of that direction just kind of like was fading a lot. And I'd stepped down. I stepped down from leadership and I needed time to regroup. I needed to regroup. Nothing came upon me in that moment, like other than just like, this is good. Because right now I have a toxic relationship with my business in the sense of I'm fighting for something other than the people. I'm fighting for the title. I'm fighting for the position. I'm not fighting for the people. And so I knew I needed to let it go. It was time to let it go, give some space, give some reflection, give some rest. And it was in that time period where God really, really started to speak to me. And my identity was no longer found in the title or in the company, even, right? Because for so long, like that's where my personal growth journey began. Right whenever I newly found Jesus again as an adult. And then it was like, boom, in this company, like that was almost my like sense of like, this is what I'm meant for. Like, this is what I'm all about. Like, it was all tied and attached to the company, to the title, to the promotions, to the recognition. And it's almost like when you weren't achieving those things, it's you question your identity, you question, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Like I just feel like I'm not reaching my next step. I'm not reaching success. The word success has thrown me for a loop lately, but success is what we chase so often. Like we are like programmed to chase success, but we forget that success is fleeting. Success changes every day. It changes every minute. Like once success could be this whole thing in your head. And for so long, for me, from when I first started to when I almost was like stepping down, I had reached success from the beginning. Like when I could imagine everything it could be, I had hit it. I had hit success. But when I was there, it was like, this isn't really success. This is success. This is success. And you just keep chasing the next level, the next level. Once I'm here, this is success. And I don't want to chase a life like that. I don't want to chase a life of just success because there is no eternal value in that. So don't get me wrong, we did have strong core value. We do have strong core values in the company, and the impact is eternal value. But you can get carried away in the success and lose sight of that. So that's kind of what happened for me. When I left or when I stepped down, I didn't leave when I stepped down. And when God started to speak to me and he brought back to life for me, my identity, my truth. And he said, this is what we're going to do. And this is how you're going to impact now. This is how you're going to speak to people and love people. There's no promotions. There's no reward. There's no recognition. You're not chasing all these things. Like you're chasing the hearts of people because that's what Jesus did. So.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think for many out there, including myself, there's been moments in life where I was chasing the money because I'm like, well, if I just have this much money, then I can have this. All right, if I have this much money, and then like every time, like you would upshift, now I'm making this much money. It was never enough money, and yeah, so I can relate, and maybe other people can relate to that, or maybe they just don't have money, but they want money, and that's like this vicious cycle. Because the thing about Jesus is he wasn't here to chase money. When we are walking in our purpose, our God-given why we're here purpose, the money follows us. Money's not your master. You're meant to master it. And so that took me a lot longer than Taylor to figure that out. I was a little stubborn about it. But the thing about God, abundance is your birthright. So when you're walking in your birthright, which is walking in your purpose, the whole reason that you're here, the money will follow you because God is going to ensure that you have all of the things you need to fulfill your purpose. He's not going to put you on this path and say, this is what you're going to do with your life, and then not give you all the things you need to make it happen. So
Right.
that's so important to remember that. And plus, so, and then here's like the question that was coming to my mind. So as you're this top 2%, was it more of like just this feeling that something wasn't quite right that was kind of pulling you and questioning the what was going on?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I began feeling like I can definitely put it on like my performance in a lot of ways. And maybe even my discipline as a businesswoman kind of shifted. I had a lot of change going on in my life. And so, like I had mentioned, it wasn't all necessarily clear in that moment at all. Like, oh, I need, like, God's calling me here. Like, by no means, I did not know that at all yet. But I did have a lot of change going on in my life that took place. That now looking back, it all makes sense why I started having these feelings and why I wasn't feeling that just like hungry passion like I had used to, like I did at some other point, many other points in my career. And I was just kind of losing it. And it hurt me to feel that because like I mentioned, again, I love the company. I love the business model. And so I'm just like, I just don't understand. But I did understand. It felt relieving. That's the exact word it felt when I stepped down. It felt relieving because I started I started having this tension with my business. It was nothing nobody did. It was me and just and almost in that sense, like me knowing like you're being called somewhere, somewhere different. So
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a good reminder that it's not always a truth bomb.
right.
Sometimes it's just this heart nudge, this almost like inner knowing that there's something happening. We might not even
Mhm.
be sure what it is, but that's again going back to last week's the obedience. It's just knowing that because I feel this nudge, that this feeling of maybe it's just discontentment or could be
Right.
even kind of confusion of I'm not sure what is going on. And I feel like there's two choices in that time that either A, you just barrel through it, you ignore it, and you just keep going,
Hmm.
which is when I think the truth bombs really start coming at you. Or
Right.
you've already decided that, I understand that there is a time for doing and a time for being. And when you start feeling that discontentment or that something isn't quite right, that you love yourself so much that you will stop and go, okay, I don't have to figure out the answer right in this moment, but I'm going to start opening myself up to receive the answer of what is happening right now. Like, what am I supposed to learn? Because sometimes all it takes is allowing yourself to go sit with Jesus. Just
Right.
go sit and hang out and let him love on you and give you that answer.
Mhm.
Because once you ask the questions and allow the answer to come, they will come. It's part of the
Mhm.
universal flow of how things work. So
Seek and you'll find.
exactly, knock and the door will be answered, but you can't knock and then walk away. Sometimes you have to sit at the door and wait for it to open because sometimes it doesn't open immediately like you want it to.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
um so
Awesome.
okay, let's take it a little further now. So you stepped down, and was there now are you getting any truth bombs or heart nudges after?
Oh yeah. So I forgot even a vital part of this. That so I reached like pinnacle success at some point, right? At a point in my business, and I wanted to write. I just had this call over me, like in that height and that excitement. And I'm like, I want to write a book. Like I, and like my view in that moment was much more like skewed in a sense than it is now, like the clarity around it. Then it was like, I just need people to know, like these are these are the answers, to life. And so because I had reached like so much success, so I'm like, I want to write. So I started to write, and it was more of a self-help style book. And I wrote maybe like 5 or 6 pages. There was no structure, like in my like, so you'll know the comparison whenever I get into this of just like how like I was forcing it. I was really forcing it. Like, but I knew I wanted to write. I could feel in my heart that I wanted to write, but and I like thought I knew it's right, but I didn't really know it's right. You know, it's like, oh, you get all this stuff, and it's like, okay, now what? But when God has the perfect timing for you and he says you're gonna write, when he voices you're gonna write, it's like here's the structure, here's your chapters, here's, and it just like all comes, it unfolds. So I knew that I wanted to write, but I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write now. But God never said you're gonna write now in that moment. So then it just like whatever it's in my, I deleted it now because I'm like that is like absolutely no. But it was in my computer for a while. And then I reached this point of like an all-time low in my business, and then I stepped down, and then I just started to write, not even thinking about a book in the moment. I'm just like, I need to write. Like, I just have so much on my heart right now. And to be honest, I felt so much gratitude. You would think that I would feel someone that just like lost like everything. I mean, that was like 4 or 5 years of like my life, right? That I devoted to this position, this title. Well, it was more like 3 years. But you would think I would just feel like pointing fingers and blame and this is this system and that. And but in my heart, I felt grateful. And I journaled, I wrote, and I'm like, and then God spoke to me and said, you're gonna write now. And it was a few months after stepping down and having some, I did deal with some certain heartbreak with certain relationships, certain connections during that transition time that was hard. It was really hard and hurtful in some aspects. And so I had to rest, learn to rest with the Lord, and that He is my best friend and He's got me. And so it was in that this past year where my journey of resting has really come to fruition, and has been like a primary in my everyday life. And so that's when the book that I am almost finished with started to come into fruition. And it was right at the time that you and I started talking again, like we reconnected, and it's just like it was just his timing is just incredible.
It is. It's really funny. And just like so the listeners kind of get a little feel. It was so funny because, like I said in the last episode, is how we kind of crossed paths, went our own way, crossed paths, went our own way, and it was so funny because I just kind of messaged her one day saying I wanted some of the stuff from the company she was working for, and at that same time she was like looking for someone who knew what it was like to write a book. I remember this conversation, and then after I had messaged her about, hey, I want to buy some of this stuff, and she was like, hey, you've written books, and I'm like, yeah. And that kind of was what got us talking, and it was so funny now that I've seen both sides, because I got to witness what you had started writing before we started talking versus after really getting God flowing again, like that nice, beautiful, amazing connection, and the fruit of him, speaking through you, like shifted how you are writing. Maybe
Mm,
share that a little bit, the like the before and after kind of thing.
right. No, yeah, there's a difference in your flow. Um, so I remember asking Lori about referencing. Like, oh, I put so much. So right before I started writing, right when I had like God spoke to me, I had all my like chapter, I had everything broken down, and then I just had the thoughts of, I'm not credible. I'm not a doctor. I'm not, I haven't had this 20-year like speaking, writing. I'm not an author. I've never written a book, right? Like I'm just Taylor. Like, and it's almost like I discredited myself completely. And I just was like, I need references. Like I need references. And I started getting shut down by that in a lot of ways of the copywriting and how all that works. And Lori brought to my attention, because our conversation started with me just like asking her these kinds of questions. And she's like, God's your reference. And that's when it really sank in for me that he is, and he will speak right through you. And he spoke right through me in writing this book. And so, a little bit about this book that I'm writing. I was inspired through this journey of quiet and rest with the Lord to write it, as I've been explaining. And so this book is called Aligned and Alive. And we dive into the connection between our mind, our body, and our spirit to God's fulfilling life for us. So the book brings awareness to truth. It highlights areas that we tend to idle in and kind of just sit on autopilot in our lives. And it redirects us to the one who essentially brings us out of that place and into the fullness of life. So this book will inspire you to align with God in all areas of your life, to become seamless with your God-given purpose. Because like I just said, after my journey of chasing success, when I first wanted to write, it was almost leaning towards chasing success, right? And so my perspective changed on life dramatically after I hit an all-time low. And so what Lori also brought to my attention before is that God will isolate, he'll pull great leaders in isolation for time before they bring out their greatness, and show his work, because we need time with him before we can present his work, right? Because otherwise, if it's like your work, your time, your success, there's no need to pull in the isolation with him. So it's his work, his beautiful story. And so the difference is you can find this now, no matter where you're at. And that's my message in this book. That's God's message in this book, is that the fullness of life for you is now. There's eternal value for you now. And all it takes is to get aligned with him, to align your spirit with him. And essentially your mind, your body, your soul, there's going to be so much alignment in all of you, because we are the temples, right, of God. So there's going to be so much alignment with you that you are just walking in that fullness of life every day. It doesn't matter where you are in your life right now. You can do it now, right now. And so that's exactly what this book is about. And it's a beautiful story. And I'm just so overwhelmingly overjoyed at what God's doing in this story. So
Yeah, and it was impressive how fast how fast it flew out of her. Because I remember, because at the beginning when she let me read what she had, and we had talked about the references thing, and at that same time is also when God was calling me to create the program that I kind of mentioned last week, the Becoming the One God Called. And so it's so crazy, because while I was creating that program that she was also going through with me, she was working full time and wrote that book. So it's amazing what you can accomplish when you're connected to the divine, because again, time is not your master. And just getting into the flow of him and allowing him to dictate time, all of a sudden what would have taken years took her the 12 weeks. It's a 12-week program. And I just know, I was so busy creating the program as she was going through it, and then all of a sudden she's like, oh yeah, I'm done. I'm like, what? Wow. So yeah, it's really crazy how we're meant to create. And if we wouldn't have been obedient, like we were talking about last week, this program would have never been made and her book wouldn't have been written. But the program is made and her book is written. So yeah, you can do amazing things. And so if you're sitting there thinking, well, I'm not this and I'm not that, but you are. You were brought forth from a creator. You are meant to create amazing things. So if you're feeling that nudge, or maybe some of you, it might be a full-on truth bomb, like you're going to write now, or you're going to create this program, or you're going to, for some of you, it might even be, you're going to be a mom to this many kids. Don't ever discount and think that, because I've heard people tell me I'm just a mom. Yeah, but a mom is like one of the most important purposes that you could have. I mean, that's all my mom wanted, was to have a lot of kids. She had 4. She actually wanted more, but she got 4. And that was, that was her greatest heart's desire, was to be a mom. And so don't ever discount and think, well, I'm just this or I'm just that. You're not just anything. You're amazing and beautiful, and your whole story is beautiful and it's meant to be shared. So yeah.
Right.
So who
Indeed.
knows? Yeah, who knows what God wants you to be doing, unless you connect with him and learn to understand that you are love, and
Mhm.
through you comes love and purpose, and yeah, just these amazing things that can happen so very quickly when you come into obedience and alignment. So yeah. um
Absolutely.
is there anything else that's popping into your head, as far as any other heart nudges or truth bombs, or maybe even in the writing process, or maybe around the writing process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, there's so many epiphanies all the time. And that's the beauty of stepping into your life fully aligned with Jesus. Is number one, you become like hyper aware of things when you step into full alignment with him. And nobody's perfect. Like, doesn't mean I'm like in full alignment with him all the time, but I recognize when I'm not because I know what it feels like to be. So that's what's really cool about this is you become so hyper aware of your surroundings, of um, just a spiritual sense. You become hyper aware. You become hyper aware of how certain things make you feel, like even food, like certain things for your body, things for your mind, which I dive into all that in the book. But it is super cool getting into full alignment with him and just watching your life transform in so many ways where you are learning all the time. Like all the time. We're always learning. We're never going to become, we're always becoming. And so that just really, to me, that in itself, that phrase right there is a truth bomb. Like
Right.
we are always becoming, and so just embrace your journey, and it's okay to make mistakes. Like, we're not here preaching perfection. I mean, only Jesus was perfect, right? But he really did leave a perfect example for us to follow. So we can strive our best every day to just get more in alignment with him in all areas of our life. And the fullness of life will appear in those moments. And you will feel when you're out of alignment, because when you're in alignment, you become so hypersensitive to where and you recognize quickly, I'm out of alignment and I need to get back there. So we almost want our rebound to just become so like quick, because we're going to fall, right? But we want our rebound to be quick. We don't want it to just take us out like for months on end, like, oh, something terrible happened for me. And I'm just like in a rut for, months and months and months and years and years. And then you've lost total connection from the vine. Like you just allowed it to take over you. And staying in alignment, being able to rebound and just bounce back up. I learned that phrase a lot in business, to don't let it affect you, just get back up and get back in alignment, and don't judge it, and give yourself grace, because God gives you grace, right? When we mess up. And so we just ask for forgiveness, and we strive to get back in alignment, and it's a beautiful story.
Yes, it is. And I want to add one little thing to that too. What I've really learned in my journey is that when we feel like we've made a mistake or that we've messed up, we tend to close off. So we literally make ourselves small,
Right.
when what we really need to do is enlarge ourselves, to open ourselves up, to understand that there is so much beauty and love in this world that we can't get to it. Because I know that for me, coming from abuse and trauma in my background, or anyone that has been bullied or anything like that, it's like you almost like feel like it's a way to protect yourself, to become really small. And it's almost like, in essence, this virtual box that you put yourself in, because you're like, if I can just put myself here, then people can't hurt me. But the truth of
Right.
the matter is, then love can't get into you. It's like you just hold it all in. And so it's not, love is meant to be this constant flow that comes through you and out. And so the key is to understand that there's beautiful messages in the messes, always. So if you
Yeah.
feel like you went through a mess, there's a reason and there's a beautiful message in it.
Right.
So don't ever discount the things that you've gone through because they made you who you are. They taught you how to be more because, like Taylor mentioned, we're always becoming something. We're either becoming more or we're becoming less. That's it. So I always say choose more. Choose to keep becoming more obedient, um, more love, more glory, more praise, more faith. You have this capacity. So open yourself up because that's when the miracles happen. They don't happen when you're all closed off.
Mhm.
They happen when you're all open and aware, and then you'll be so amazed. So yeah,
Hallelujah.
yeah. So thank you so much for being here. I cannot wait for your book to come out, and of course, we will definitely be back with her when it does come out, so she can tell you where to get it and all that good stuff. So thank you so much for being here. It's been great.
Thanks for having me.
So until next week, everybody.
Till next
Bye.
time.